Hello everybody, welcome back. If you're new to the group, each week Molly and I present a word, and at the end of each of the groups of words, I go over the personality type that's represented by that color in that group. So this week I'm going to talk about the orange personality, the observer, and its connection to all of the different personality types, so the other 8. So the orange personality is part of the secondary group. So orange is a secondary color, and that grouping consists of orange, green, and purple. Now this group has some differences from that primary group. I talked about the primary group having a strong rooting in the past and a lot of focus and attention on lessons from the past, stories from the past, and things that have happened to them. And that is what they share. The secondary group, the orange, green, and purple, they have a stronger root in the present. So they have a very strong sense of now. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean they're living in the moment. It's not that kind of now. It's a focus on where they are, what they're doing, and their like immediate plans and goals and what they're working on. So they don't spend as much time in the past. They don't spend as much time reminiscing or telling stories or things of the past. They will do that. Obviously, we all have a past and we all have stories, but that's not their focus of attention. Similarly, they're not going to go too far into the future. They'll have some concepts of the future. They'll have some goals or some things that they're working toward. They definitely like to have a structure in that way, but it's going to be a little bit looser. And again, the focus is really going to be on what's going on now. So they're very dedicated to the commitments that they've made. They're very dedicated to the careers or the passions that they have. And there's a lot of focus on what is important to them this, today, this week, this year, with this job, with this marriage, with this relationship, what's going on in my life kind of as it stands now, and the focus and commitment to that. So again, it's not really like a living in the moment feeling of now, or a staying present. I'm not really talking about that kind of sort of meditational, emotional state of now. I'm really talking about a dedication and commitment to obligations in a current life, a current situation. So they stay very current. Now, the relationship of the orange to the primary colors, when you look at those connections, they're related to the red and the yellow because red and yellow make the orange. So the connection to the red is through a direct communication style, a very action-oriented and logical connection to the red, and those relationships, a love of knowledge, a love of information is a connection to the red, and that's a very strong connection because the orange comes from that red energy. Now the yellow connection is the more conservative, like worst case scenario connection. So there's a caution there. The orange has a caution that the red doesn't have. They have a consideration for danger or risk, and they're kind of risk averse because of that connection to the yellow. So that's what they share with the yellow. They share risk aversion, some future thinking when it comes to like negative outcomes of decisions or activities. And again, in a very physical way, they're very risk adverse. And that's their connection to the yellow. They also have a pretty sharp sense of humor, a pretty sarcastic, kind of witty sense of humor. And that's that connection to the yellow as well. So that's how the orange connects to the red and the yellow primary colors. Now the connection with the blue is a complementary connection, and that's very similar to what I talked about last time with the red and green. Red and green are complementary colors. Orange and blue are complementary colors. So these two personalities can be very close personalities. They can get along very well, but again, it's a very opposite nature. So the blue has a lot of connection to their emotional state, their creativity, their creative side, and the orange is very strongly rooted in logic and reasoning and numbers and knowledge and facts. And they stay away from that emotional place as much as they can. It's very overwhelming for the orange. So they have emotions, of course, we all do, but when they're processing their emotions or they're feeling overly emotional, they retract. They go into a private space, they go into an office or a den or even a garage space or a bathroom, anywhere where they can get some private time. They're going to go into that place if they're feeling emotional, which is kind of the opposite of the blue. The blue wants to lean into that. They want to experience that emotional feeling. They want to express that emotional state. They're much more expressive. So that's the opposite nature of the orange and the blue. Now the orange's connection to the tertiary colors, which is that third tier. When you mix a primary color and a secondary color, you get this third color. And that connection for the orange is pretty distant. So the three colors in that third tier in that tertiary group are the chartreuse, the teal, and the fuchsia. Now the orange and the fuchsia definitely get along. There are a lot of orange and fuchsia marriages, and it comes from that same connection with the red. They like the direct communication style of the fuchsia. They like the less emotional side of the fuchsia, that more logical, informational side that the fuchsia gets from the red and from the purple. So they have a lot of that same energy. The fuchsia is very future oriented, so the orange likes that goal orientation. They're very action oriented. The orange likes that action oriented nature, and they bring a little fun to an orange's life. If an orange has a fuchsia in their life, they can struggle with like the hyperactive feeling or the that energetic side of the fuchsia, but again, they kind of need that. They need a little bit of that movement forward and that excitement in their life, but they don't want too much of it. They like it in doses, so they can get overwhelmed by it, but they're very good at taking themselves out of the situation. If they become overwhelmed, again, they'll just go do something else in a quieter space, in their den, in their office, in their wood shed, in somewhere where there is their personal space that they feel comfortable. So that fuchsia orange is a strong connection, but it's a little bit of an opposite nature when it comes to energy level and speed, action. Like when a fuchsia is very quick to make decisions, and an orange likes to ruminate more. They talk a little slower, they think a little slower, they're a little more thorough, but again, they have a good relationship there. Now the orange and the chartreuse and the orange and the teal, those are more distant relationships. So that's a relationship. The teal one comes off of that blue. It's a green and blue combination. So it doesn't have as strong of a connection. A teal relationship for an orange can be a difficult relationship. They do like to keep things out of the emotional realm. The teal also meets the orange there, but it doesn't have that strong connection energetically to some of the other colors. So it's going to be a more difficult, more distant relationship. It's going to take more words to communicate your point. It's going to take more time to kind of come to an understanding or see things the same or understand the other person's perspective. It just doesn't have those close ties. The same thing with the chartreuse. They'll get along, again, through that yellow, they have that same witty humor. They like that same part of the chartreuse, but it's just a more distant relationship. They're going to have a little harder time understanding each other. They probably meet on a slower decision making. The chartreuse has a slower decision making processing time, but it's not really a quick, easy relationship or a quick, easy connection. It's going to be a more distant relationship with the chartreuse and the teal. They're a little drawn to the fuchsia. Again, they like that direct nature and the enthusiasm of the fuchsia, as long as it's controlled enthusiasm, but they got a little more connection with the chartreuse. So those relationships, that's how each one of the personality types interacts with the orange, or the orange interacts with each one of the other personality types. And if you want to learn more about the orange, we have a post that gives a pretty detailed description of the focus of attention of the orange and the motivations of the orange, and really an overall sense of what that personality type looks like. So you might have an orange in your life. You might feel like you are orange. You might resonate with this information. but know that their lack of emotional expression is not personal. They just aren't as comfortable processing that kind of information in a relationship with someone, like one-on-one. They really want time to do that on their own. They really like to process their emotional experience independently. There's a lot of independence with the orange. So one of the things you can do is just try not to take that too personally. It's not about you, it's about their processing. That lack of emotional connection can be kind of difficult for certain personalities. And just remember that, again, it's not about you. They just process emotional experiences differently. They like it if you lean on them for information. They like it if you are interested in their similar hobbies or interests. And they can really connect with people deeply when it comes to that stuff. They have a lot of information. They have a lot of important stuff that they know, that they're interested in. And if you can stick to that kind of knowledge-based information, you'll have a really strong, deep connection with an orange in your life. And if you are an orange, remember that other people's emotional experiences are very different than yours, and they like a little bit more of that emotional expression, and that's okay. And it's okay to say, hey, that's a lot for me, I'm gonna go in the other room. Just the more you can tell people about how you're feeling, the better. That's a practice that the oranges can work on, is that emotional expression. Even if it's just a little bit of information, it helps people understand where you're coming from. Just because we are so different, each one of the personalities, and our focus of attention is so different. So I hope you enjoyed my video today on the orange personality, and I really enjoy my relationship with the observer personalities in my life. I'm a green, so I have that complementary, or not the complementary, I have that relationship as a secondary color. I really like the current situation. I really like to focus on sort of what's going on now. I don't spend a lot of time in the future or the past. I really like the now. So I really enjoy that time with the oranges, that slower paced, factual, kind of sarcastic time with the oranges in my life. I hope you enjoyed it, and I would love to hear comments or thoughts. If you feel like you are an orange or you have an orange in your life, I would love to hear your thoughts on it. So thank you for showing up this week.